Before getting started with today's episode, I'd like to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive. Thank you to Freedom GPT. Freedom GPT is the app store for artificial intelligence that allows anyone to access any AI model. Finally, thanks to JTX Media for the video and audio production behind this podcast, based out of Austin, Texas. Hey everyone, welcome back to Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wolfson. I'm so excited for today's interview. Today, I'll be speaking with Sunny Liu. He is the CEO and founder of VeChain. Let's get right to today's interview. Hi, Sunny. How's it going?
Good. Thank you, Rachel, to invite me over. I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, of course. Well, Sunny, I've known you for years, and this is our first in-person interview.
Oh, yeah?
The first time I'm actually meeting you in person, I think.
Yeah, it is. But we kind of connect each other like virtually, right? In the different spaces. And you met my team in the UFCs, and that's a very fun event.
Oh yeah, VeChain always has the best events. Just throwing that out there. Before we get started, Sunny, could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, and what VeChain is?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sunny. I'm a founder and CEO of VeChain. And I start crypto journey 11, 12 years ago, starting from 2012 and 13. So I was called by many people like I'm an old dinosaur in the crypto world. You know, we talk about 1 year in crypto equals 7 years in the real world. So I guess I'm already 70, 80 years old right now.
Okay.
So before I created VeChain, I actually worked in Louis Vuitton. As a chief information officer. So my job was kind of connecting the business and the technology to try to figure out what is a technical solution could address the business challenges or helping the business to grow. So when I was in Louis Vuitton, I kind of get into Bitcoin back then 2012 and 13. I was playing a World of Warcraft and somebody offered me like some game items you can buy, and I didn't have dollars, but the guy said, "Oh, you can use a Bitcoin." I was like, well, "What a Bitcoin is?" So I started looking at, Google about the Bitcoin and searching the Bitcoin talk and try to exchange with people's idea, like what it's about, and then falling in love into the Bitcoin since then. And in 2015. I decided, I should do something differently in the crypto space. And I feel like, the crypto space missing someone like me. I know about the technology. I also understand the business. So that's kind of doing the bridge job when I was as a CIO. And I quit my job and threw myself into the crypto space and created VeChain. And that's how I start from the crypto space. That's
an amazing story. I'm a big fan of Louis Vuitton, so that's amazing that you were the CIO.
Yeah.
That's really cool. We can talk about that another day.
Sure.
So what year did you start VeChain?
We started in 2015, actually, right after I quit Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
And also we start to, not like official star. The official starting is actually in 2017. Before that, we were, try to engage with different developers, try to, polish some ideas and run some POCs or rough prototypes to see how it works. And also at that time, we tried to test the different type of technologies. We tried the color coin solution. Actually, it's like old technical terminology, like nobody right now even understand that. And also like we call it multi-coin technology, try to, let's say, build up the application on Bitcoin first. And it was not, actually Bitcoin is not designed for that. So, and later on in 2014, 15, I was have a chance to discuss with Vitalik in person. And Vitalik was running the Ethereum ICO, like fundraising in China, in Shanghai. So we had a very interesting discussion for a few days. And I feel like, the EVM solution seems about right. Can build up, I call it, Bitcoin is kind of like Excel. It's a ledger, right? But it keeps the records only. And Ethereum or EVM is more like a small applications. you can have more complicated logic running on that. And that's how I feel like, okay, it's the right timing, we have the right technology, and let's learn from the Ethereum, but try to make it more improvement. And our idea was like, we wanted to make the technology serve the real world. And starting from the enterprise adoptions, and sure, at that time, Ethereum still have few defects, I would say. And we create our own with some enterprise-friendly features to make it more easier. Enterprise builders or enterprise users can build the application using the blockchain technology.
So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
The problem that you wanted to solve, and maybe you encountered at Louis Vuitton, I don't know. What was the problem you wanted to solve for enterprises, and how is VeChain enabling that?
Actually, it's linked to Louis Vuitton cases.
Okay, cool.
So when I get started, about VeChain, right? I was, for sure, as a startup, you have nothing, you have no people, you have no money, and you have no even the branding or names. Like nobody knows what VeChain is, and I try to use my personal connection. And also the first idea of VeChain use case is coming from one of the projects I did in Louis Vuitton. Back to 2011, 12, I was a global project manager for a global project in Louis Vuitton. It's called Track and Trace. So we try to build up the database system to track the product from original source, like even the raw materials, to the manufacturer, to the regional warehouse, to the stores, eventually even try to track the after service of the customers as well. So that was a global project. We did that in Louis Vuitton, but it's like a traditional system. So the first idea for me was like, okay, what about we replace the database by the blockchain technology? And it could be some new features could lead to something really interesting. So that's actually the first prototype of VeChain. And I traveled to Paris and knocked a few doors, talking to those CEOs, also my ex-colleagues in Louis Vuitton, and they're kind of moving to some other brands inside of the group. And one of my friends, also my mentor, Philip Fortunato, he was global CEO of Givenchy. And he gave me 30 minutes. And first 20 minutes, he has no idea what I was talking, like what is blockchain, Bitcoin, like he has no idea about it. And in the last 10 minutes, I just tell him like, okay, Philip, you have been my good friend, also a good mentor. Just give me a chance. I'm not gonna ask you for money, but give me one line product and we can try something. And I show you how blockchain can bring the different features or use cases along in the supply chain management. That's the first product. I still remember the name. It's called Infinity. It's a very nice lady bag, limited production. I think only 1,500 pieces ever made it. And we bring that product on VeChain, start the supply chain management about that. And next thing I know, by end of 2019, we cover 100% of leather goods of Givenchy products globally, and also start to expand some other brands as well. So yeah, that's everything started.
So when you say track and trace, do you mean you ensure that those products and goods are made in a facility and they go through this certain
everything.
production
Every
process?
step across the supply chain segments or processes. So most of, let's say, especially nowadays, more than just luxury goods, but actually most of the products going through multiple different steps, even involve the different players, right? So either you can use one single system, but allow everyone try to use yours, or you can have an open system, like building up on the blockchain. You don't need to, have a closed system, but more collaborative, more open system. So different players, whatever the upstream or downstream players, can all play, put the information from their segments and eventually make a whole traceability solution. That was the original use case from VeChain.
And then VeChain today, I'm assuming, I know it's evolved. So, is it still the same tracking and tracing and working with enterprises?
Well, yes. Actually, eventually we kind of, from that single prototype solution, and start to iterating, are covering the multiple different sections. For example, the high profile case like food safety for Walmart. So basically it's the same. You provide the traceability solution, the data of any food for retail consumer can get from the Walmart store. And those information stored and verified on the blockchain guarantee the integrity of the data. So basically, I would say it's a similar, from technical point of view, I'm an engineer. So from technical point of view, it's about collecting the data from the different business sections and store and verify on the blockchain. And eventually it could lead to the different type of the value. So some of I'm not able to say the name due to some kind of stupid NDA, but some of the luxury brand, actually one of the biggest one, they're using for authenticity management to manage, to prove like this product is really coming from that store. Even when the customer tries to return it, you gotta make sure it's authentic, right? Some could, like I mentioned, leads to the food safety platform, like for Walmart China, or for H&M for recycled material tracing, showing to the customer, the piece of garment or hat is really using the recycled materials fitting the sustainability areas. Or, like a receipt project we did, it really prove the plastic is collecting from the ocean and reused or recycled in the new products. So that's basically the same methodology or same way to do that, but it eventually could lead to different type of use cases or different type of business values.
Right. So you're bringing back memories because in 2017, that's when I first got involved in blockchain. Mm-hmm. And the reason I got involved was because of supply chain management, because I'm a health and fitness freak and I want to know where my food comes from.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So in 2017, I heard about, was it IBM blockchain? Maybe it was 2018. They were doing the food, their
Hyperledger,
food program.
Right?
Yeah, on Hyperledger. But from that's how I ended up hearing about VeChain, because you guys were working with Walmart. So now I remember exactly when I first heard of VeChain and why I was so interested. And I want to say that, being in this industry for so long, the best use case for blockchain is supply chain management, in my opinion.
I would say it's the best as an entry or knocking the door, or for enterprise going to the blockchain space. Let's put it this way.
For enterprise.
I think, you just talk about the IBM case, actually, the Hyperledger kind of shutting down.
Right.
I think for two reasons. One is linked to, they use kind of consortium blockchain, not like public blockchain.
Right.
So I would say it's kind of weird design about the consortium blockchain, because it's not that open, but kind of like you have to rely on a certain group of people or entities trust for that kind of data integrity, right? So I would say it's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Second, there is no token has been involved in that kind of use cases.
Right.
So eventually, I believe, I call that kind of application database type blockchain applications. So basically just replace database by the blockchain for some of sections. It generates quite cool features, immutable to change, publicity, transparency, sure, 100%. And also allows the collaborative involvement from multiple different players along the life cycle of the product. That's 100%. But I believe it only reveals only maybe 10, 15% of the power or potential of the blockchain technology. I believe the token needs to be also in the design for the future applications. So that's my thought.
No, that's great. And I want to ask you why, because I feel like IBM and Hyperledger, or IBM, they wanted to stay away from tokens, cryptocurrency of any sort. So let's talk about VeChain. Like, do you guys have a token?
Yes, we do. We call VET, is a native token. And also we have a second type of token we call VSOL, is actually a gas token.
Okay.
To kind of separate a bit, because that was the first, we call it a little bit like dilemma in the tokenomics design for most of the layer one platforms. So basically, let's say the typical paradox is if more user to use blockchain, that means more demands. And then the token price usually go high, right? But most of the layer one also link, kind of have the gas linked directly to the token as well. So basically you do a transaction or you execute a smart contract, you need to pay the same type of token as a cost, right? But you see the paradox is more people to use, more demands, higher price of the token, that means higher cost of the gas fees as well.
Yeah.
So eventually kind of always going to this kind of cycle, and it kind of prevents lots of the enterprise, because the enterprise looking for a stable and a relatively low cost of doing the transactions. They also wanted to have a predictable transaction cost.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So otherwise, you cannot plan like, okay, this year I plan 100,000 for the cold gas fees. Next year, oh, boom, you got to pay $1 million or $2 million. Nobody wants that.
Right.
So we kind of separate. The VET token is a native token to secure the blockchain networks, and the VSOL is generating from the VET, but paying for the gas fees.
I see.
So that was one of the twin. I think we are the first one to design this twin token system, try to address this issue.
Interesting, yeah. I actually didn't know that, so good to know. I want to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about sustainability, because I know you're a big believer in sustainability. You're a big supporter. VeChain is doing a lot around sustainability. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Actually, it's one of the, I call it, it's not pivot strategy to sustainability, it's an upgrade of sustainability. And actually, most of the use case we have done in the past is as acting as a pre-steps to go for sustainability. Like I mentioned, all of the supply chain system or application, it basically onboard the different type of business process or activities on the blockchain. They're generating the data, new type of data on the blockchain, right? So there must be some unique value of the data. And we believe sustainability is a low-hanging fruits to monetize and valueize those type of specific data. Because, Web3 is about the people. And Web3 is about to, let's say, connect to the individuals much more easier than before, and also discover something or monetize some value of the data of people at so lower cost. Think about that. If you do something good and you want to make sure that thing you do has some monetized value, how are you going to do that? In the previous world, either you trust some central entities like big platforms, or you got to hire an auditor, reputable auditor, to prove what you did, right? That's in the Web 2 world, that's how it goes. And for sure, you cannot afford that kind of cost if it's just a small fractional effort linked to a small fractional value. But with a blockchain, you can easily do that. It's kind of small supply chain or track and trace, that kind of system, just for individuals. And let's say if you do something good and we are able to digitalize that, record it, and verify by smart contract, incentivize you by token right away. And those type of the data becomes really valuable data if you look at the collective and accumulative way. So from this point, I believe that sustainability is kind of waiting for Web3 to solve some of the issues, or to be as the next use case, promising use case for mass adoption of the Web3 technology.
Right. And there's the VBetter DAO,
yes,
which I'm familiar with. Can you tell our listeners what that is?
Sure. VBetter DAO is as one of the deliverables coming from our latest white paper. We released the white paper, the third version of white paper in last year, with actually co-author with BCG together, Boston Consulting Group. And we call it the Web3 for Better. So basically we make a narrative like how we're going to use the Web3 technology to solve or address the issues of sustainability areas. And VBetter DAO is the deliverables from this white paper, and we launched it in February, and going to be right now still in the testnet, and June 28, we're going to be migrating to the mainnet.
Wow.
And so far, I'm pretty happy about the results, even in the testnet. It shows exactly what we want to do. So vBetaDAO, you can consider as a marketplace. And the marketplace incentivize or motivate different type of, we call X2N applications, so all of the decentralized applications, to create a scenario for every user, normal people, to do good, make a better choice from your daily life, and eventually realize the collective value. Like, given an example, you take a coffee every day, let's say, or a few times a week, right? But especially when you travel, when you walk around to the coffee shops or Starbucks, you take a paper cup, right? But actually, if you think from, like, if you have a God's eye, God's view to see the entire world, 16 billion paper cups have been made and consumed every year by the world. It kind of coming from 6.5 million trees have to be cutting down to make those cups. So if I set up a personal target to you, you reduce 50% of your coffee consumption. Don't use paper cups, but use the recycled mugs. And you get reward about it. So I think, if you go to Starbucks 7 days a week and you say, okay, I set up the target 3 days, 3 times, 4 times, I'm gonna use my own recycled mugs, it's not that hard, to be honest, right? But if everybody doing that, you get even reward to do that, and then eventually, as a whole community, we can save 3 million trees every year.
Yeah.
That's a huge result coming from the accumulative but also collective value, even from small efforts. That's what we try to do.
Got it. When you say rewards, what are the rewards?
The reward is going to be by the tokens.
Okay, the tokens.
By the tokens.
Got it.
And also there are two parts of, let's say, job has to be done. Firstly, more and more X2N applications represent different type of scenarios. Let's say I made an example for coffee. You can take an EV other than fossil car. You can clean up a little bit garbage on the street if you just walk by, by your convenience. You can choose the recycled products other than just normal products, right? And you should get rewards to doing that. Or anything good, anything generally good to our environment, to our world, or make a better choice from your daily life, you should get rewarded. And that reward is coming from the token, coming from the smart contract, verify what you do, right? So that's one part of the job. The other part of the job actually is major, let's say our focus with BCG together is go to the enterprise world, go to the traditional world, to monetize those type of the tokens, to bring those enterprise also be part of the game. So they can create the utility of the token, they can bring the value to the token. So simply say, vBetaDAO is also an ecosystem to tokenize and build up the liquidity for all of the sustainable assets. When we think about sustainable assets, it's not only about those physical hardwares, like a solar panel, like windmill, water plant. Yeah, those are obvious ones. Sure, we will, some of the sections, some of our use case is gonna focus on that part, but also we consider human effort, human actions, activities. As long as it makes the world a better place, it should be considered as sustainable assets as well. And we wanted to tokenize that part and share the rewards and eventually create the value across the whole ecosystem and make everyone, part of the game. So it's not only about the financial incentive, but also spiritually, you are part of the big things. Like I said, if I tell you, Rachel, you're doing the good, and last year you're part of the Saving 3 Million Trees movement, you feel proud of it.
Freedom GPT is an app store for AI. Freedom GPT is most commonly known for its censor-free AI model called Liberty that answers literally any prompt you ask with an unbiased response. Unlike other AIs where controversial topics are off limits, Freedom GPT embraces the concept that you should be able to ask AI anything. Equally important, Freedom GPT has the option to be run locally on your computer so your data remains 100% private and secure. Check out Freedom GPT's over 80 AI models today.
Exactly. I mean, what I'm excited about is I love this whole concept. I think it's amazing. And how can we get Starbucks and other big companies on board to use this technology? Because that would be amazing. I go to Starbucks, I earn rewards using the VeChain app that works with the vBetter DAO.
Yeah.
How can we get those companies to use this technology?
Well, that's our job. That's our plan. Actually, we're working on that. And actually, I have to say, the ETF approval this year, whatever January about the Bitcoin and a couple of weeks ago about the Ether, it kind of paved the way. The enterprise. You talk about the 2017. Think about the IBM, all of the use cases with enterprises. And the reason they couldn't use a token because lack of the regulation, lack of the clarity, like how do you define the token, how to use a token, and also I have to say, unfortunately, in the crypto side, there were so much bad players also, try to leverage and take the benefits out of the crypto usage. But now I think, with more and more clarity in terms of regulation, it kind of paves the way for enterprise. Looking for, you're not only, the regulation is about try to prevent the bad things, bad moves, punish the bad players, but also to motivate and incentivize the good players. I would consider like VeChain is one of the good players. And actually, as a matter of fact, in our pipeline, there are many enterprises are already very excited about that. I even try to hold them a little bit, like, okay, wait for it, we're still in the testnet. In June, end of June, we only can migrate to mainnet. And maybe you want to see a couple of months, see the real data, like how many users are really using that. And then you might have a great idea how to bring your business process into this. But yeah, that's the plan. We're working on that.
I mean, it's amazing because it's so focused on sustainability. You're solving a real world problem that needs to be solved. I mean, that's what VeChain is doing. I think that's great.
Well, we never changed that kind of course. From the beginning, from day one, we set up the course, want to bridge technology into the real world. So some community members even call us, oh, you guys are king of RWA. I would say, okay, I think we are the oldest one, have been trying to do the RWA.
It's funny you say that because, this year everybody's talking about RWA tokenization. It's the hot topic, as if this hasn't been done before.
Actually, it has done previously, just in a different form, at different scales, right?
Yeah.
But again, like I said, not only about the US, we talk about the 2 ETF approval. Think about Europe. Europe going to have a MiCA. The new regulation across the entire European continent is going to be effective, I think, after the summer. It also shows the way, like, okay, now we have a framework, we know what to do, and how we're going to play in the framework doing the good thing, but not doing the bad thing.
Right.
That's it. That's about any kind of technology going through this kind of the journey, I would say.
Yeah. One last question before we get to the end of this interview. So VeChain also partners with UFC?
Yes.
Can you explain that, or is that just something fun?
Yeah, well, firstly, I really respect what Dana White has been doing for the UFC. You kind of bring that, game or the fight to be fastest growing sports across the whole world. So when the first meeting happened a few years ago, firstly, Dana is also a big fan of sustainability. You saw the recent Instagram he sent out. He's shouting for full ocean, that kind of project. Collecting the plastic from the ocean, that type of thing. So firstly, he's a big fan of that. Secondly, I would say the UFC has a very overlapping profile with the crypto fans. If you look at the profile of the users, basically we're the same type of the people. So I would say that's the best, not only in terms of visibility for our branding, for our stories, but also the best engagement tool. We can leverage with our community members. But sometimes I have to sacrifice myself a little bit. I always put the VeChain internal team as a lower priority in terms of tickets. I put the VeChain family the community member is the top one, and then business partners, and then maybe internal stuff.
Yeah.
So for sure, everybody loves that, right?
Yeah.
Even UFC 303 is with McGregor. It's a huge fight. Everybody wants to go.
Right.
And I say, okay, hold the horse, guys, and make sure we have a giveaway to the VChain community members. You know, try to show the appreciation, how they support us, how we engage us.
Yeah.
And also, we even won the reward from the UFC. Say, VChain's partnership is the best community engagement, in the last year.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep doing that, and I believe that's best place. Like, it's why also fitting the crypto scenario. You know, we talk about some ideas, we're hearing the feedback from the community, and more importantly, we have fun together.
Right.
It's more productive.
Yeah, I mean, it's very fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Sunny, any final thoughts before we end the interview that we didn't cover? Anything you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think this year is very historical moment for the entire crypto space. But I don't know if you know, the first ETF application actually started in 2013. And 8 years later, in 2021, the first future Bitcoin ETF got approval. And 3 years later, like this year, the spot ETF got approved, right? So I think it really kind of opened up the new door. And there will be more real value comes up, and more, let's say, players are different. Mm-hmm. And there will be more real value, real world adoption about this technology going to, totally different new level. You talk about the UFC, actually, we just have a new gloves use case launch. So every new gloves since like right after 302, UFC 302, the new gloves we're gonna gonna have VChain chips, and also have virtual identity on the VChain blockchain.
Wow. To
track that. So it's just the first use case, before, like, with lots of things after and following. But those are things are really getting to people's life. Not just in a small scale, I would say in a much larger scale. Think about how many people take coffee, how many people like to, save the ocean animals, to collect the plastic waste, clean up a bit.
Yeah.
So those are things that you can do it on the daily life.
Right.
So actually next week, we're gonna launch a new D-app in the VBETTR DAO, is charge to earn. We call it EV Earn.
Okay.
So if you have an EV, you charge your car.
Oh.
And you should take a rewards.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so those are small things I can picture about hundreds of different, X2 application or scenarios could really motivate people to do good, make a better place, and then you get rewards, and you will be rich. Not only financially, but also spiritually. I think more importantly, spiritually,
yeah.
You will be rich.
Yeah, I love that. Sunny, if our listeners want to get involved with VBETTR DAO or VChain or anything like that, how can they do that?
Well, spread the words.
Yeah.
And firstly, start to test a bit, to see if you really like those applications, and then spread the words, calling more people to join us together.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see more of everyone at the UFC fights.
Of course. Sounds
Cool.
good.
Thank you, Sunny.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'd also like to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive. You can click the links in the show notes to learn more about each of the Web3 initiatives from these sponsors. Finally, thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you guys next time.